Warped was a community. We need community again. That could make a good cocktail. That's good. Little burpee burp. There was this little band that I put on that tour called My Chemical Romance.
That's nuts.
There's a point where I'm gonna have to go out and just wander around and kind of see what we put back together.
Hello everybody and welcome back to 11.1 Questions brought to you by BeatBox. My name is Matt and I'm here with the great
Kevin Lyman. Nice seeing you, man. I don't know if that's great, but I guess I gave you that answer.
No, you are great and you're a hero to me, so I'm so happy to have you here. This is a very exciting one.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Yeah, man.
Really, you don't roll into a studio and they've got them lined up for you, so.
We do things a little bit differently here at BeatBox.
You always do.
We do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you might know, we do 11.1 shots at BeatBox. We taste the product, let me know how you feel. If you don't like something, let me know.
Okay.
If you love it, please let me know.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, let's get into it.
Okay.
This first one is Orange Blast. You had this one before?
I have not. What I'm thinking is like maybe I'll do a taste test and kind of rank them as they're kind of going along.
Let's do it.
Maybe we'll judge that thing where I can line them up.
I love that.
We'll keep a little bit in the bottom of each glass so I can tell the colors as we go.
Well, cheers, man.
Well, cheers. Kind of like that. Remember the Tang?
It's like the orangutan.
There was this called Orange Tang, and it was like in a jar thing. Your mom would whip it up, and like when you couldn't afford orange juice, you got Orange Tang. So that reminds me of a little bit of that old flavor, a little classic flavor of Tang.
People feel different types of nostalgia towards this flavor in particular, so it's a great flavor to start with because you are like nostalgia to me in a nutshell.
Okay, nostalgia in a nutshell.
Well, for 30 years, Bands Warped Tour has acted as a launch pad for a ton of different bands that I grew up listening to. Who are some of the bands that you're most proud of for kind of taking off post Warped Tour?
For me, it was that background prior to that, like 12 years working in the clubs of LA up to 320 nights a year. So I was listening to all these different sounds. So I think that's what Warped Tour kind of became, was kind of an eclectic festival. That first year, if you go to 1995, we had people like Seaweed, which was kind of this indie band out of like Seattle. Then you had Sublime. For me, it was like this kind of platform and springboard more for fans. I looked at the fans and said, wow, those metal kids might like punk songs and punk band people might like some of this stuff. But who was I most proud of? I like the bands like, you know, that maintain a career over a long time. When you look at Less Than Jake, who played the most Warped Tour dates ever, to see how those bands, you can make it in this business for such a long period and you don't have to have a giant hit. That by putting in the hard work, keeping your mind open mostly, being willing to play for anyone, you can have a long career in this business, and what's wrong with that?
And there have been people though that have had those huge career successes. Katy Perry has thanked Warped Tour numerous times for what it's done for her.
You know, Katy Perry was like willing to get up there every day, and she was just learning her chops basically. There was no Kissed a Girl before Warped Tour, came out on top, but I was putting her in tough positions. Like no one knows when I write that schedule each day, I'm challenging artists. So she had to go up right before Pierce the Veil or Bring Me the Horizon or right after. And like just showed her what a great live act she could become.
Gwen Stefani is another big one in that category of someone who just blew up.
You know, she was someone I knew from working in the clubs.
Oh, okay, really?
Oh yeah, she was like we'd do these ska shows and there'd be like 12 bands and there was no doubt it was like band number 9. And we would sit there and literally say, we knew she could be a star, but they got to get out of the clown suits. They used to wear like kind of a clowny suit on stage. And we're like, get rid of the clown suits and let her be the star.
Hayley Williams is another one who started off on a really small stage of Warped Tour. She was only a teenager when she started playing there, right?
The way I met her first was actually, I had another tour called Taste of Chaos. And there was this little band that I put on that tour called My Chemical Romance and Senses Fail and Kill Switch Engage. And I had heard about Hayley Williams through a friend, and I put her on a second stage just to play a few songs acoustically, but right before Kill Switch Engage. And she held her own, like totally held it. And I go, that's someone that I'd love to hopefully help give a stepping stone if needed.
Our next shot will be the hard tea shot. So have you had this flavor?
I did, I've had this one. I thought it was pretty good. Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Right there.
This is best to
This
worst?
is best, yeah. Okay. And they're never worse, you know, it's very close, but you know, that Tang, I don't know. That's going back up here right now.
Okay. Well, Mr. Kevin Lyman, this is the hard tea question. Typically we, as you would say, spill some tea.
Yeah.
So,
Talk about iced tea.
Yeah.
Did I guess the question?
No, but what do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, Ice-T to me was my mentor, and to be honest, in the business. And Ice-T I met on Lollapalooza. I was the first stage manager of Lollapalooza in 1991. And the moment like he walked in, he got off a tour bus. A normal tour bus has like 12 people on it. He got off this bus with like 24, 25 people. That first night when we were all trying to rehearse and do production, there's a book just came out and kind of describes this moment. I was like, looked over to the side of the stage while it was hot and everyone was partying or whatever, and there's Ice-T watching us. And I walked over and I talked to him. He said, I want to learn everything about this. I want to understand everything and that's taught me you have to learn a little bit about everything. And later on, Ice-T he's the only person that ever told me he's coming on Warped Tour.
Not even asked.
Not even asked. He said, I'm coming on Warped Tour. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I don't have any money to give you. And by this point, he's making lots of money. And he goes, are you kidding me? You think I'm coming on the tour. And then we traveled the world together. And with my father, who was, he's now 90, almost 96 years old, but this was when he's in his 80s. Him and Ice-T became good friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a photo of that.
Okay, we got to go back to the official question.
No, this is honestly,
okay.
Anything you want to tell me like that, this is why I want you here. The question I had was, why now after this hiatus?
It was interesting, so people go, oh, why'd you stop in 2019, the pandemic? No, I was stopping. I had planned on it. It was set up since 2017 to wind down in 2019 at 25 years. I had done everything at that point with the project that I could. One, I don't think people expected it to go past 1 year. Then we kept going year after year after year. And honestly, I think a lot of people started taking Warped Tour for granted. It was, we don't have to go into the business structure or how it all worked, but it was just like this thing that came every year. These guys put all the work into it. They do the marketing, they do everything when we have to go out and market other shows. So I think people took it for granted. I wanted to go out and spend some summers with my wife, traveling around to all those places we passed through. And now I feel that we need community again. Warped was a community. And I think with the pandemic and being locked, that we've never really recaptured that in some ways. So if we can give a platform like Warped and bring it back as close to what it used to be. It's not gonna be exactly, but as close to what it was, I think we could bring and inspire young people to come out and finally kick my ass and do it better in a few years when I won't wanna come back after the second time and do it better and bring it back that way.
Okay, this next one is our blue raspberry question. Okay, cheers. Thoughts?
Probably because I burned my tongue so much on hot food, but it kind of gives you that taste of like, just kind of, for me at least,
So Kevin, BeatBox is an official sponsor of Warped Tour, and we even have our own stage this year. I want to know, what about BeatBox as a brand captures the energy of Warped Tour?
I think it's a brand that's, taking risks out there. I think, you're not going to lose the essence of music as the foundation, but taking that risk and moving into other brands, there's other brands that have done it, but most like in energy drinks and things that you can diversify out, but you need to solidify within as you grow,
Also, one last question. Can I play?
No.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I don't know, I'll take a listen.
I don't actually do anything. I just was making a joke.
And there's also the Ernie Ball Battle of the Bands. You can still sign up for it.
Yes, I'll sign up for it. Yeah. Vote for me. Well, this next one is green apple.
Cheers.
Give this a smell.
Yeah, it was green.
It's got a good smell.
Yeah. Definitely tastes like green apple. I think that's gonna go right there.
I'm loving this lineup, yeah. This is a smart idea.
Yeah, if I was gonna go grab one at this point, God, the tang keeps coming back,
Yeah, it's a good one. Mr. Kevin Lyman, one cool thing about Warped Tour is it's never been just about music at all, really. There's so much more to it than just music. Can you explain a little bit about how you managed to sneak in life lessons and philanthropy into a punk rock scene? As
I teach and learn from those years, I ask my students in class, just have 3 words that describe you. I always say, try to describe 3 words because I teach marketing and branding and things. And I say my brand is music, philanthropy, and education. So everything I try to get involved in or do has some element of that. If I can get 2 elements, it's great. If I can get all 3 blended together, that's even better. So I figure most people are coming to a festival to have a fun. Just run around in the sun, listen to some music. But if 10% of those people get exposure to a nonprofit, maybe a brand, maybe see someone they maybe want to work for, or maybe pick up a guitar themselves because we try to make it accessible, then you've got a giant classroom. And when we were doing 500,000 people, I said Warped Tour kind of became the largest classroom in America that maybe out of that 50,000 people a summer would sign up to register to vote, to sign up for a nonprofit, to bring those canned foods that we're doing the canned food drives again.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think for everything for me is kind of how you try to, music is the foundation, but how to build off of that.
Bands are actually willing to kind of not pay the same rates they would for other festivals because they know and trust you, and they know that this is bigger than money, right?
Yeah, I appreciate when we thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the bands when we were booking this. They knew that this is about no individual band or no individual thing. It's about a community. And I keep going back to that. And the more that we can inspire, and then I want to inspire those young bands, and they're going to feel just as welcome as maybe those larger bands when they come out this summer.
You're a beast, man. Speaking of beast, this next one, it's Shaq's signature drink. This is new blueberry lemonade flavor. It's our new lemonade line, so.
Okay. I like that one.
I really like that one.
Yeah, that one's gonna go right there.
Okay,
Yeah.
amazing.
You gotta give it to Shaq all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Of course.
DJ Diesel.
Speaking of DJ Diesel, Shaq is known for so many different things. He's a pro athlete. He's DJ Diesel. He's even a cop in the state of Florida.
Oh, I mean, come on. All of us are cops in the state of Florida. I think I'm a cop in the state of Florida too. Let's take care of that one. Some guy comes up and gives you a medallion when you're there, you know? They just want to get backstage and hang out with Pennywise.
You're also similar. You're kind of like a jack of all trades, like producing like on the ground this festival forever. You're also, you know, a big part of the marketing. People love you. People love what you're doing. And you're a teacher. Professor Lyman.
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit about, you talked about your students, and earlier I kind of heard you talking off the record about how you kind of use them as a focus group for a lot of things. And even with BeatBox, they've even talked about BeatBox, right?
Yeah, you know, I bring it up. You know, I talk about the different things and show them how the foundation of my life, but it's allowed me to explore different things, from being involved in BeatBox to Haley Williams Hair Dye Company to VerseWire, which with Mark Hoppus and Pete Wentz and things. So when you get to a point in life where the only thing you're going to do is run out of time, you know, and that's the thing. I think we all run out of time. But for myself, it's always like I kind of work out of fear and desperation in a way, because I was never able to keep a job. I'm terminally unemployable.
This next one is watermelon lemonade.
Okay. Getting ready for the summer.
Yep. Definitely summery.
Yeah. Sorry, Shaq. I like that one.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Kevin Lyman.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts about researching you over these past couple weeks and watching a lot of your interviews, which by the way, you're such an amazing speaker and you have so many cool things to say, is just how good of a storyteller you are. But you have a lot of stories that have kind of blown my mind. I think one of them, you being able to see Kurt Cobain.
It's funny because those photos keep popping up and people go, oh, and there's Kevin Lyman. I was always on that spot, kind of watching the audience and watching the band and watching how they were interacting. Kurt was a gentleman, and when I worked, he was very shy. I remember him being very shy, very reserved. It's one of those things like, some people search for success and some people, it's just gonna come at them. And I think it came at him pretty hard. And I think he was grappling with it around that time.
I saw the picture on Reddit and it was like pointing with you with like your name on
And
it.
I think Mark Hoppus was in the audience too or something, you know, watching the band. Yeah.
But did you know each other at the time, you and Mark?
No,
That's just a coincidence.
that was just a coincidence, yeah.
And I'm sure you guys are very close to this point.
Well, you know, Blink-182 couldn't afford a bus when they came on Warped Tour, so they rode on my bus that year in 96 or 97.
Dude.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite stories is the story about Green Day saying they would never play Warped Tour.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was they were like, we'll never play Warped Tour and we'll never watch Titanic. So when they played Warped Tour, I sent someone out, and at that point got a copy of Titanic and I taped it to the side of the bus and said, now you can say you did both. You know?
Well, cheers to that. This is the lemon squeeze flavor.
Okay. That might be my favorite.
Let's go.
I like that one.
Kevin Lyman. I want to talk about your marketing strategy behind how you reveal the bands on social media, because I think it's really cool and really unique. So you want to talk a little bit about it?
It kind of goes back to the early days of like Warp with no billing. You know, we never have any headlights, always alphabetical. Everyone gets so everyone got to be a headliner on Warp Tour back in the day. So nothing's because I write the schedule different every day back when we were touring. So everyone did get to be a headliner, but that was usually the worst spot to play. No one wanted to play last at Warped Tour because that's when people were sunburned, hungry, tired, start heading towards the gate. But it's how do you empower bands? Most festivals don't empower the bands to take a little bit of control themselves. So when we finally everyone got their heads around it. It was a lot of work to get those many people to get their videos in. But I knew to front stack the videos with some really cool, fun bands that I know would do great videos, because exactly what happened, we ran those videos and everyone behind them called and goes, can we get those back? We want to. So it became like a challenge to do a better video than the other one, you know, like a fun challenge. But this allowed people to have their moments, and you know, and then I got some feedback. Oh my God, there's some negative comments, and I go, I come from a world of aggravated young people. They are going to hate everything. But I said we will overcome that if we stick to the plan, and we did.
And I think one of the craziest, coolest stories is that Sublime is reuniting with Bradley's son, Jacob, who is extremely talented. And he's coming back as the frontman, and he's living up to his dad's legacy in such a way that I always knew he would, because he's so talented, and it just makes my heart so happy.
You know, bittersweet for me in some ways, because you know, my daughter was born and Jacob were born within 30 days or so of each other, and I would sit in the parking lot and talk to Brad about raising. Now we have new kid, you know, we have our new children. How are we going to raise them in this business? What's it going to be like? And he was really looking forward to being a father. He really was excited about it. And then when he succumbed to his demons, that was one of the reasons I really got involved with Music Cares and some of these things, and learned how to identify some of these traits and things that, you know, we all should be able to live our lives the way we want. But music business has a wide lane of acceptance, and that lane is pretty wide, so we can, you know, we can live our lives. But when you get outside that lane, it gets bad. And now hopefully I can help other artists kind of be around. I will miss him that day, to be honest.
Well, cheers, man. Cheers. This is the pickle margarita flavor.
Wow, that pickle is good.
Kevin Lyman.
Yeah.
So I talked about this before, but you've always been boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Running around, walkie-talkie. You've always been doing that. How do you stay so humble, and like, you're such a kind dude, even though you're a hero to a lot of people and a lot of important people?
I'm very lucky to get to do what I wanted to do, and I was able to do it. I was told so often, unless you move from Claremont and live in LA, you're not gonna make it in the business. And I go, no, guess I won't make it in the business. Oh, unless you come in and do this, you won't make it in the music business. I actually had the head of an agency, like president of an agency, and he goes, you need to probably clean up your act a little bit, clothing wise, and the way you know, just your life, and you'll do better. And I go, well, then I won't do better. I don't believe there should be this is who I am. And I will help people, but I don't keep a favor bank, if that makes sense. So you never ask for things. You just do things because you want to do them in life. Just act. And if we all acted a little bit more and just did little things, and I'm not I can't put on 100 million, but you know what? We put up, you know, you help where you can.
Your life is one I aspire to live, man. This next one is cherry limeade.
Cherry limeade.
Cheers.
Wow, the tea slipped all the way down there.
And you like the tea too.
I like the tea. Kind of a mid. That's mid pack right now.
Mr. Kevin Lyman, you grew up in a hippie town in the 60s.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Kinda.
I lived in a town where it was you know, kind of, it was like, they call it Santa Cruz of the South, the Claremont colleges, that kind of vibe. So one of the things, you know, for me, I started getting exposed to that world, and one of my first jobs was like selling egg rolls in the Grateful Dead parking lot, you know, out of a milk truck out the Oakland Coliseum shows, you know.
That's nuts. So yeah, you went from being part of this kind of like earthy hippie side to being part of the punk side with the likes of the Ramones. I heard about the stories about you and Joe Strummer, like crazy.
Yeah.
I can't help but think that that has some sort of effect on how you choose bands.
You know, some people will like, there's a certain set of people that only want to hear certain things. It's like a Metallica fan. The worst thing in life is to be the opening act on a Metallica tour, because Metallica fans want to hear Metallica, you know? They don't want band, you know, that's why my friend Joe Sib does comedy before him with Jim Brewer. Most people like to absorb sounds, start to make sense to them. So early days Warped Tour, I would kind of put together that lineup and then put all the music on iPod, put it on shuffle, and like walk around and just see like, will it stand out, where things start to stand out and sound. So by adding in those things, we could have reggae bands on Warped Tour, and it would make sense to a segment of people. And I think in the long run, it really kind of helped us because it exposed people to a wider breadth and then also the fans. And it was also those artists got to spend more time together. Flogging Molly, I remember, and Morgan Heritage, they would have never met on a normal tour, but the next thing you know, they're recording a song together. For me, it's gonna be fun to wander around, and I won't be there all day, but kind of, I'm gonna be at the show all day, and I'm gonna be working all day, but there's a point where I'm gonna have to go out and just wander around and kind of see what we put back together.
We've got Cranberry Dreams here.
Cranberry Dreams.
Cheers.
That could make a good cocktail. Yeah, I like it out actually because it's not super sweet, but that would be your good mixer.
So Kevin Lyman, for the 10-year question, where do you see yourself and or the state of Warped Tour in the next 10 years?
In 10 years myself, I've kind of given it a window of 4 or so of this transition, hopefully as we build Warped Tour, if it lasts, if the reception's there. Maybe people are gonna come one year and go, this isn't working. That'd be okay too. It'd be nice to transition, but myself in 10 years, I'm gonna be, 64 this week? Be 74 years old. Pick a focused project. Something like whether it's a watershed or some creek that you could focus that energy on. I found myself in Grand Caymans last week, and we were at the north coast of Grand Caymans where it hits the tip, watching the swirl where the ocean comes from Belize, Cuba, Jamaica, and the trash that collected on that point. And I have to keep busy, as my wife says. You can't sit still. And every day I would go out and clean that section of beach.
Yeah.
And it might be just cleaning 10 feet of beach, but it'll be the cleanest beach in the world.
Well, the date right now is April 2nd, 2025.
Yeah.
If possible, I would love to check in with you on April 2nd, 2035.
Absolutely.
And we could see
if you could find me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Kevin, this is our last one. This is the fruit punch question.
Okay.
So on this last one, I don't want to take this shot just yet.
Okay.
I wanted to toast you to the revival of Warped Tour by doing a little BeatBox themed cocktail.
Okay.
If you're interested.
Sure.
So I have some Prosecco here. Got you the good shit, the Francis Coppola.
Wow.
I think BeatBox is really good when you mix it with.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice thing. There's a lot of different stuff you could actually, make some nice, the flavors have settled out over the year. You guys have adjusted the flavor profiles of some of the products since the beginning.
Right, they taste so distinctly different.
Yeah. I had to go to Austin like a few times to get one of the bands back together for Warped Tour.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, Dancehall Crashers. It took me almost 30 years to get this band back together to play Warped Tour. I would ask them every year to play Warped, every year in the Warped. And I went down there this year during ACL. And I'm like, come on. This is probably the last time I'm gonna ask you in my life. You need to get back together if I bring back Warped Tour. So for putting them back together, we're gonna have this toast too, because
it worked.
And it worked, and they're back together, and it was so funny. It took so long, and they're playing DC as well as Long Beach. If my last achievement is, like your last question, is to have gotten Dancehall Crashers back together to play Warped Tour, then it's worth it for me.
I cannot wait to watch them then.
Yeah.
I hope they live up to the hype, man. You've been hyping them up a lot.
Yeah.
So we're gonna dump this in here.
Okay. All right. Cheers.
Cheers, Kevin.
Thank you for having me out.
Of course, thank you for coming.
That's good. That's good. Little burpy burp, but that was good.
Kevin Lyman, to close out this interview, obviously we just made the toast, and I want to ask you if you could schedule a very final Warped Tour with just 3 headlining bands, who would the 3 be?
Rancid would definitely be there. My Chem. God, I get in so much trouble saying it, but Paramore. That'd be a good one.
That'd be a killer lineup.
No, when you go back through, we're doing it right now. They're doing a history deep dive into Warped Tour, and over 3,400 bands play Warped Tour at one point or another. There's not many people that didn't get to play Warped Tour, and I always say it would have been Ramones, where I always say, I tell them, come be the Ramones for 30 minutes, and I'll give you a whole stage called the All Ramones All the Time stage, and that won't happen. And then the year that Joe Strummer was supposed to be on Warped Tour was the year he passed away. So not many bands didn't play Warped Tour.
Right.
21 Pilots never played, little.
Yeah, what happened with
That's
that?
not for me trying. That was weird to name 3 bands because there's then you go back and go, there were some really cool bands.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Keep it up with BeatBox, and you know, and I hope to see you. I'll see you in DC in a short period.
DC will be so fun, and I love that you have this whole.
Yeah, and I
array
think
of-
I'll end it with this.
Yeah, where
I'll
do we
finish
put that?
actually a whole shot here.
Okay. Yeah.
Good way to end. Pickleback. All right.
Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. There is one last thing. So I know you see there's
Yeah.
a point 1 question
Yeah.
here. So I do this thing every episode where I ask the guest to take a waterfall picture of me.
A waterfall picture. Right?
Yeah, waterfall picture.
Okay.
It's kind of my thing. So what we do is we just take a really great photo of you pouring beatbox in my mouth. And that's it.
Oh, okay.
Are you down?
Sure. Okay.
Don't sound too excited.
No, I'm okay.
I'm just kidding.